good.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw you was when you came out of Argyle and
You're keep going.
You gotta go up. There you go.
well, I knew you had your place up north, and that was a lot thing. Two places that
Well,
you had.
that, and it was, for me, was like my happy place. I looked
I'll point over here right now so you can hear me.
Is that when you're where you're spending most of your
We'll
time?
just have to remember to move that.
You'll see what happens.
Yeah, well,
Here, just put it on the
There's a level thing right here.
put it on the video.
yes, I'm
Good,
doing okay.
Skipper and Rhonda, I think we might have met once in the river food pantry, so.
Oh, okay. I would actually drive her, she would sit in front. I would sit in the park.
Thank you, yeah, sorry for your loss.
That would, if it doesn't. I think I got your wheelchair.
So don't worry about it.
I'm not.
You got plenty of room. Okay, your mom was going okay? Yeah,
But she stayed with me, I was like,
she probably didn't like the stairs.
so they were still working on the road behind us, so she came mostly in and out of the front.
When you're able to take care of Kevin.
Oh, it sure was, wasn't she? Oh, yes.
I mean, she's not hurting anymore, so that's good.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I guess.
Saw a lot of them.
When we're not here, they text me up. If someone calls. Oh, God. You so loved when you would open the door. Is there a Rita here? Good. And then, how am I doing?
You're doing great. I just want a quick question here.
And keep giving your
Oh, I'll try. Maybe I have her in my corner to help me now.
Is Aaron here?
Oh,
If not, that's okay. I just want to speak to Aaron. That's okay. That's fine. Just keep. No. That's okay. Just keep talking to people.
all right. How are you? Oh. Thanks for the card. I did. Okay, yeah. You guys have to close the door.
Dinner. Yes, you
Are you part of this plan, Rob?
He doesn't know it
Heard
yet.
about it.
Oh,
I don't know if I'll be invited.
well, it's a stupid known thing, right? That you really know how that works. Okay, great, thank you. We're doing okay. Okay, well, I want to see you a little later. Buddy? Yeah. I told them this morning. Struggle. Oh, we were talking to her. I said, "Will you just let me put this out?" And then, oh yeah, we were like, down south. Oh, Peter's holding up the head of the kid. Right after you put that on there? Yeah! Cool.
Won't play golf or anything?
Oh, I'm going to get back to it. Okay.
Love to do it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Memory. It's been a long time since we've been together.
How are you? How are you? I'm okay. Probably coming this morning. I went up 2 days. So,
Something happened in Steve's mom. Not easy.
oh, it's not. But, well, he said, well, maybe we can figure out a way to do this gracefully. Oh, somebody said, "How do you do it?" This seems like no, I haven't. I never met her. We actually met in the fall. And well, so we I never met her. And we actually played pool. I was put over by the end of March.
Meant to be. Yeah.
Always an adventure. Always.
I'm glad you found each other.
Thanks for coming. Tim, you ready? Yeah, I know it is. That's 8 minutes. Yeah. Our multiple national conference.
Is Jim here? Jim Giovannoni?
No, Jim was.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some. Oh, yeah, on multiple occasions. No, we'll see it Monday afterwards.
I have a doctor appointment.
All right. Well, it all depends on how long it's gonna speak.
Yeah, right.
You're between lunch.
Did you organize a little?
Maybe sometime. I'm probably gonna leave the country for 2 months.
Country.
All right.
Where?
Where are you at?
Yeah.
She was a.
Oh. We were looking through the wedding album. Remember? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me.
I think I'll survive.
Singing, that's right.
Well, I'm just glad to hear that it's early.
Yeah, it's very early. Yeah, look at that. Speaking of. Looks like he's playing. Is living love by a church. They were at church. I thought so. I looked the address up and I wanted to send. I wanted to.
Really?
Yeah, I wanted to send.
What's her name? Okay, yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Was that your Marianne's?
So there's
All right.
The new.
Hi. Things. You all feel what?
I was thinking at least 20, because I remember you're 15.
Yeah. Some great pictures.
No, that's true.
There's some nice pictures. She always called you. And you know exactly why, don't you? All those three men around you, the girls just had you stick together. I had to do something.
Yeah, I know. My mom passed. It was very cathartic.
And we'll
We'll
talk later.
talk later.
Okay.
Looking for someone? Yeah. It's in the couch too. Super comfortable.
Good.
we're gonna get ready for this year. This is Casey here.
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
I've seen that. I know. Oh, yeah. Many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Do I need to turn the microphone?
It should be on, ready to roll.
Okay.
Don't check.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. Kevin gave me the go-ahead to get started today for our service for Rita. So if a couple folks are still finding some seats in the back there. Can you hear me okay? Sound is good. Okay, all right. Well, first off, I just want to say welcome to all of you for, welcome to you to be here with us today. And I want to thank you all also for being here, your presence, and your support of Kevin and all of Rita's other family members and friends. My name is Erin Young. I am a spiritual and grief counselor at A Grace. I work in their hospice care program. And the reason I'm here today is because I was on the care team that was helping to provide support and care for Rita when she was at home through those final weeks of her life. And I want to thank Kevin first off and Rita for choosing A Grace to care for her at home. And I want to thank Kevin for inviting me here today to lead and facilitate the service. It is a great honor to be here, so thank you. So I'm going to be sort of leading, facilitating us through the service today. We have some readings, we have a few speakers, and we have a piece of music that Kevin has chosen to play toward the end. And then we'll close with another reading to finalize our service for today. So, with that, I do have an opening reflection to get us started for today. So this reflection says, let us pause in the midst of our day today. Let's take a collective deep breath as we prepare to remember and honor the beautiful life of Rita Giovannoni. Let us take this time together amongst these family members and friends to reflect on our memories of Rita, to also feel supported in our worries, our fears, challenges, and the grief we may be experiencing. And again, let us take this time to simply remember and honor Rita and all of the wonderful things she accomplished in her life and all of the lives she touched. Next, I have a reading, and this is Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. And it says, "For everything there is a season and a time, for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace." And that concludes that part of the reading. Next, we're going to move into a time for allowing several speakers to come up and share their stories, memories, things about Rita. So the first speaker I would like to invite up to the front is Tim Radlett. I see Tim coming up. He's way in the back.
Thank you. Of course, Kevin, you have to put me first. You dear boy. So, it's great to see everyone today. Our dear Rita was a very close friend of mine for many, many, many years. Our work brought us together. She was busy out being a real estate developer for independent living. And she decided she better talk to a lawyer about that. And so she came. And I was always impressed with her because she was not only interested in developing real estate, she was really focused on the people who would live there. And would they be supported? Would there be services? Could they afford it? She wasn't too keen on housing for rich people. She was housing for middle class and poor people. And would they get the services they needed? to live happily and productively. And that was always the lead issue for her. Unlike many of my many developers who don't lead with this. And so we worked on several developments together through the years and became close. And I was very glad to be the person who introduced her to Kevin. And got Kevin a job at the YWCA and picked out their house 2 doors down from us. And so, we watched carefully over Kevin and Rita, and so glad to have them close and taken care of. Then Kevin, if you ever need, Kevin's retired now, so if you ever need a travel agent, my highest recommendation is to go to Kevin. He arranged, and when I say arranged, he did everything to facilitate trips that Rita and Kevin and my spouse Jeff Seidbeck and I took to national parks. I don't know, 7 or 8 years, 6, 7, 8 years. And Kevin would arrange everything. And Jeff and I, our requirement was to show up at the airport on time with our credit card. And follow instructions. Kevin would have a van reserved, and he was the only one allowed to drive. And Jeff and I would sit in the back seat like good children and do what we were told, and it was great. All right, usually we do what we were told. But those were wonderful, wonderful, wonderful times, and I'll always hold those memories close to me because although Kevin's itinerary sometimes missed a few things that I wanted to go to, I always figured whatever I see is more than I would have seen sitting at home watching me TV, which is how I spent most of my time. And then of course Rita was such a wonderful cook. So if we were really nice at home, we could finagle dinner at Rita and Kevin's house. And this was a great improvement over the takeout food that I get every night for Jeff and me from the local bar or whatever you can get. She's really fantastic cook. And she was my counselor in so many ways. Both when I had difficult personal issues to talk about. She was great because of our overlapping professional work. You know, that's a lot of common ground to build on. And but she's one of the few people whose phone number I have memorized so that I could call her at any time and ask her how to cook whatever I was trying to cook. You know, what does this recipe mean? How do I do this? And then she would happily come over and give us interior decorating advice, which we wouldn't always follow, but she was happy to give it. And so in this way, she was like a big sister to me. And that was great for me because my big sister died several years ago, and my mother died, and I needed somebody in my life to take care of me. And Rita always accomplished that. So Jeff and I will miss her dearly. We'll miss the inspiration that she provided for us, the guidance, the incredible example of how to live a life with integrity. she really, you know, if you're not sure which way to go, look to the way that Rita's gone, and you'll learn a lot. So that was good. And I will miss her. She joins the ever-expanding crowd of people, hopefully in heaven, who I turn to in my mind for guidance, even though they're gone. So, anyway, Rita, Kevin, we love you. Kevin said I could only talk 3 to 5 minutes. At first he said 30 minutes.
We didn't have your hearing aid yet.
Okay, thank you, Tim, very much for that. So we have another speaker next, and it's going to be Connie, who's coming up.
Hi, honey. Thank you all for being here. We share a common love for a wonderful woman whose presence enriched our lives and the lives of many others. I've known Rita so long, or I knew Rita so long, I don't remember when we first met or when our friendship began. Of course, that could just be age-related memory loss, and probably is. I do know our friendship was over 40 years, the longest friendship of my life. During those many years, I got to see and experience and enjoy her intelligence, her kindness, her compassion. She was a fierce advocate for helping others, leading to her laudable work and helping the elderly, which we've now joined that club, helping the elderly where her characteristic drive and loyalty shined. Tim spoke well of that, knows about that very well, as do you. She knew how to enjoy life. That was one of the best things about her. She loved art, travel, food, beauty, and her husband, whom we've always called Kevin Honey. In fact, even my kids, who are now 38 and 35, still refer to him as Kevin Honey. When they were considering marriage, Rita asked a friend of ours and me, Lynn, were you part of that too? Lynn, okay, to interview him. A spousal interview. The interview was her idea. It will surprise none of you to know that he passed the test and accepted the job. Our first international travel was to Barcelona in 1995. It was a great trip, except that I got my first pair of bifocals on that trip. And the adjustment, I don't know how many of you had to go through adjusting to bifocals. The adjustment to it made me so dizzy I could barely walk. And we were walking down the Ramblas, which is a brick, stone, downhill walk. And I was acting like I was drunk, which regrettably I wasn't. Rita grabbed my arm and held me. Again, kindness and compassion in simple everyday terms. Our next trip, we went to Paris. It was the early 2000s, post 9/11. Returning, I was coming home to Madison. Rita was going to Scotland. She asked me if I would take her dirty, worn underwear home with her so she wouldn't have to carry it. Stupidly, I said yes. At the airport, when asked if I had packed everything myself, I again stupidly said, no, my friend packed her underwear for me to take home. You can imagine the result. I was taken to security and frisked while they examined my bags. Luckily, she had packed no drugs or guns. I made my flight, but I learned two things. Sometimes it's okay to say no, and sometimes it's okay to lie. Our next trip was also to Paris. We decided that each of us would be responsible for one day's itinerary. I chose the Rodin Museum for the garden, the sculpture, the roses, and I thought Rita would like it, and as well as, Lynn, were you with us on that trip? I kept asking Rita what her choice was, and all she would tell me was the Coca-Cola Museum. We're going to the Coca-Cola Museum. I was a big Coca-Cola drinker at the time. She wouldn't clarify the destination. I spent a couple of days asking her. She only told me I would love it. I did. It turned out to be L'Orangerie, and I saw Monet's water lily paintings for the first time, and she was right. I loved it. But I will always associate Monet with Coca-Cola. And the water lilies, I sometimes think, are actually floating in a pool of Coca-Cola. While the travels were fun and memorable, it was the everyday friendship that was most valuable. For years, until COVID, we had Thanksgiving dinners together. Rita, as Tim pointed out, was a great cook. She made the best gravy I've ever had. And if she had a tombstone, I would put that on. Here lies Rita Giovannoni, who made the best gravy ever made. That became her primary but not sole responsibility for the feast. Those dinners were wonderful and both reflected and underscored the notion of true Thanksgiving. Having Rita as a friend was one of the best gifts in my life. She was kind, loyal, smart. She sought, found, and gave pleasure. She made the world a better place. She made us better people. There was no better friend. Rest in peace, dear Rita. I love you. And you too, honey.
Thank you, Connie. We have another speaker next, and that's going to be Carol.
Hello, everybody. Kevin asked me how long I was going to speak, and I said, why? He said, because Tim's going to go over. Tim, you did well. Rita deeply enriched and touched so many lives. She was a CEO. She was a community leader. She had a public life, and she had a private life. And my name is Carol, and Rita was my dear friend. Kevin called us companions, and I think that made him jealous. That's all right too. To honor Rita, I ask that you please put your profound sadness aside for a few moments, because we're going to talk about the perfect crumb. Her obituary referenced her culinary masterpieces, which were second to none, and how every baked good had the perfect crumb. Because you see, each type of cake has a different crumb, and Rita knew them, and she could produce them. Sponge cake has a soft and bouncy crumb. A velvet cake, a moist and smooth crumb. A pound cake is dense and tender. And her very favorite a snow white cake with white buttercream frosting. Has a soft and delicate crumb. Well, how do you achieve these different crumbs? Well, Rita knew, and she would say, you have to use the correct flour. Spend the money. And bring your ingredients to room temperature first. And you have to mix the wet and the dry separately. She was watching me make a cake one day. It was a recipe from our childhood. She was watching me dump everything in and she was just aghast. Never overmix the batter. And if you're gonna freeze the cake for later use, freeze it while it's still warm out of the oven. So what does all of this have to do with Rita? Well, her baking was yet another art form. Her baking was an expression of love and of mastery. And I know that many cakes were transported to Indiana for various celebrations at Kevin's family. She wove together her passions brilliantly in an extremely thoughtful and precise way. It was all about her search for beauty and for understanding. Rita was also incredibly funny, with a really dry sense of humor and wit. She had a number of sayings. One of my favorites was her way of describing something that was overdone or too fussy or too complicated or too garish or something that wasn't in good taste. She would say with a flick of her hand, that is too much tuna fish. And she would also think that all of us gathered here today was too much tuna fish. So I would like to think that Rita is still with us. And when you are gathering your ingredients or enjoying a perfectly crumbed snow white cake with buttercream frosting, take a moment and think of our dear Rita.
Thank you very much, Carol. Next, we have, I think, the option of Kevin to speak. He said he was going to decide, depending on how long everyone else spoke, but are you going to come up and say a few words? Okay, Kevin will speak.
I have to clear up a couple of things. Tim, I will give you this. We got the house on full drive with your help. It's a little bit of a stretch that a failed project you and Rita were involved in is how we met. A bit of a stretch. And okay, maybe you got me the job. But you went on a lot of trips that you didn't have planned as a result. And you were fed frequently. That's a true statement. One of the things that has happened in these last weeks in trying to figure out a graceful way to walk this path with Rita at the end of just an extraordinary life that I am very grateful to have been a part of, is wondering how we actually met. And frequently in a flippant way I would say, well, I was homeless or working at a homeless shelter. Rita had a business need that needed fixed. She tried to be reasonable with my boss, who was unreasonable, so she just called me directly and said, hey, I see you got people who need a place to live, and I've got empty apartments I'm on the hook for rent for. Can we figure something out? I said, sure. Got together, we filled out applications. The place is a madhouse. Families, people everywhere off the streets looking for services or their next opportunity to take a positive step in their life. Rita collects the applications, she takes them to her property manager, and a couple nights later I get a call at home, and it's Rita. She said, Kevin? I said, yes. This is Rita Giovannoni. I said, yeah. She said, you know, those applications, there is nothing truthful in any of those applications. I said, well, Rita, you do realize the people I work with, I'm their last resort generally. And my job is to help them find opportunities and to cobble together opportunities. And so they've been told no hundreds of times and have kind of put themselves in a bad spot. So what we do is just try to find opportunities. And yes, they seldom tell the truth on their housing application because they know it won't be accepted. I said, is that an issue? And she said, I'm just not used to it. I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, I work with the elderly. Not only do they always tell you the truth, they give you way more information. A little later in that very same conversation, I said, what are you doing? Are you still at work? No, she said, I'm sitting on my counter eating garlic mashed potatoes. I said, what? Yeah, sometimes you just need a little comfort food. And Connie, as you'll remember, and if you're unsure, we'll call Hannah. Rita made excellent garlic mashed potatoes. From there, somehow, she and I started paying a little different attention to one another as we were figuring this out. And it wasn't too long after that, she invited me to play bridge. We played bridge. I didn't suck, so we could play bridge again. And we started to figure out we had a lot in common and a lot that wasn't in common we were interested in enough. The adventure for me and us that followed, for me, was just completely unmet. I'm a simple guy from Indiana, and I'm telling you, my eyes were open. One day I had to move her car. She was parked illegally in front of the shelter, and I just called the police and said, I got a bunch of people parked illegally, could you come tow them away? Rita comes walking in, she has a brand new Volvo, and I said, oh, I better move that for you. So I moved it, found a parking spot, came back in, and I said, nice car, but I think there's something wrong with it. She said, what? I said, the seat was really hot. And she said, it's a heated seat. I said, what? She said, a heated seat. And I looked at her and she said, I paid extra for that. What would then happen for me over time is as she planted gardens, and every spring, it was a process of moving what we had planted the spring before someplace else. And initially I'm like, really? It looks just fine where it is. You don't understand, you'll figure it out eventually. And what I realized was her creativity and her passion for growing things compelled her to restart that process each and every spring. It just became a ritual for us. And I recognized again, even after 28 years, that process, how much energy and enjoyment it gave her when we moved after almost 25 years in our home to a new place. And that process of her taking all of the things that we had accumulated in our life together, taking it someplace new, having a much different palette, yet opportunity to show and demonstrate her passion and creativity. Because let's be honest, when we were first married and I had to move a picture for the third time and patch a hole, I was not pleased. The den alone at our townhome took weeks and weeks and weeks. 2 paint colors. Fortunately, I didn't have to paint it. But where she ended up after we searched every wallpaper store in Dane County for the perfect wallpaper, and it went up, and we both walked in and went, perfect. That's exactly what it needed. Then the art could go up. And it went up in a certain way, and yes, there was more than one hole for some of them. But in the end, even this morning, I walked in and I went, this is a gift from Rita. To all who walk here you get to see her in all of that. Again, it's a remarkable attorney. And the adventure sometimes wasn't fun, and it was challenging. And Lynn, I'm gonna have to tell this story. We were in Rome, and we took a trip to Florence, and we took a train back from Florence to Rome, and Rita had to get one more postcard in the mail. And Lynn's like, well, I'm gonna go to the train because we're getting close to time, and I'm like, can we move along here? Well, not only did she have to finish it, she had to mail it. So she did that. We run to the trains, to the platforms, and watch our train 2 platforms over leaving, which was okay, except we had the tickets. Lynn was on the train. In Italy, if you don't have your ticket when they come by, they let you off at the next stop. So we quickly went to talk to somebody about this, and she's trying to explain, our friend Lynn is on the train, here's her ticket, please don't kick her off. And then we changed our tickets so we could leave a little later, we'll meet her in Rome. And she did all this in fluent Spanish. And I looked at her and I said, we're in Italy. I mean, I know you studied in Madrid, but we're in Italy. Why didn't you just speak Italian? The only words I know in Italian, she said, are swear words. I'm not sure that would have worked in this situation. There are hundreds of those examples. And it was always usually accompanied by her wonderful, rich laugh that you knew came from a place that was full of creativity and energy and love and passion. Whether it was cooking, or gardening, or traveling, or going for another time, Kevin, you should read more. You don't read enough. One last story. Our second date, the first one apparently was successful enough. She said to me, do you have a library card? I said, of course I do. Doesn't everyone? Let me see it. Pull it out of my wallet. Question 2, do you have a passport? I said, no, I don't. Well, you better get one. And we've been traveling and on adventures ever since. And so I would invite you, as the other speakers have, in their own wonderful experience of Dear Rita, that the next adventure you plan or that's unplanned, that you just take a moment and remember Rita and all the adventures that she loved, and certainly have a wonderful time. And so thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin, for that. That was beautiful. So I have another reading at this point, and this is a native prayer, and it's titled, I Give You This One Thought. And it says, I give you this one thought to keep. I am with you still, I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not think of me as gone. I am with you still in each new dawn. Next, we have a piece of music that Kevin chose to have played today. So I'll explain that, the title. After the song, I have one more closing reading, and then our service will conclude for today. So when I met with Kevin about a week and a half ago to prepare for Rita's service, he shared with me that she was a lover of music, different kinds of music. And one type of music she thoroughly enjoyed was opera. And so he chose a song to play today that is called Der Rosenkavalier Ein Traum. I had to look up how to pronounce that correctly. I practiced. So, and this is by Richard Strauss. And it said, when I looked this up, it's a German phrase meaning the night of the rose, a dream. So this is our closing reading for today, as I mentioned, and this was specifically chosen by Kevin for me to read today. And this is called I Carry Your Heart With Me by E.E. Cummings. I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, you go, my dear. And whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. I fear no fate, for you are my fate, my sweet. I want no world, for beautiful you are my world, my true. And it's you are whatever a moon has always meant, and whatever a sun will always sing is you. Here is the deepest secret nobody knows. Here is the root of the root and the bud of the bud, and the sky of the sky of a tree called life, which grows higher than soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart. I carry your heart. I carry it in my heart. So again, I thank you all so much for being here. I thank you, Kevin, so much for inviting me to do this. I know after this, there is a luncheon planned at the Esquire Club down the street, and Kevin invites you all to join him there for that. So thank you and take good care today.
This is